And good morning. We're live on YouTube. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups. That is Atlanta Falcons on SI and Scott Kennedy Sports. We'll get going just a moment. Shouldn't take too long. We bring them in, let it open up and breathe, and we are good, supposedly. Welcome in, everybody. This is a Wednesday edition of the Falcons Podcast. We are in the middle of NFL Combine Week, which means we are one step closer to free agency, one step closer to the NFL Draft, and then one step closer to the 2025 season. We got to hear from Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot for the first time since the last week of the season, the regular season. They had some things to say, some good stuff to take away from that, and some interesting things to take away from that we'll get into it today. But first off, my name is Scott Kennedy. I'll be your host today. It's my co-host over here on this side, Nick Kendall. Nick, how you doing this morning?
I am doing okay. Little guy, for some reason, would not go down last night. It was the set down. I'm asleep, set him down. I'm up, I'm upset. Repeat for, 4 hours, which is, it's a whole week window. So what the hell are we doing, buddy? Sorry to cuss, and also I have a sore throat today. So we're trying to get through. Happy to have the combine starting. And it's end of February, right? Probably this is February and March, probably the worst two weather months, but thank God we got draft stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it's going fast. We got a little lucky though with the weather here. It's going to be it's a spring day. It's 70 here in the southeast. It was gorgeous yesterday. Should be gorgeous again today. Got a little more baseball. We play Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week, so a little more baseball this evening. Looking forward to it. But looking forward to talking with y'all. We have the show live because we like having a conversation here with everybody. Want to say hello to one of our big-time supporters, and Michael Ronquillo. Michael, glad to see you. Appreciate you being here. Luke is here. Good to see you, Denver Luke. And Joseph has a question. He says, good morning, Scott and Falcons Nation. Did you get anything out of the GM head coach press conferences? Yes, I did. You'll be surprised what I'm able to glean by reading between the lines and body language and all of those types of things. We'll get into it. I think I'm going to say my biggest takeaway. Now, this probably won't be the one that I talk the most about, but I think my biggest takeaway, Nick, from the news, this wasn't actually the press conference, so this is against Joseph's point, was Orlando D-Leds. I always want to just call him Orlando, but it's D-Led, D Orlando Ledbetter. He was the first one to report that the Falcons, you're allowed to meet with 45 prospects. They met with all 45 were defensive players, and they left their offensive coaching staff at home. Just stay home. We've only got 4 picks. We're not taking anybody on offense. We'll supplement that with free agency. We're drafting defense. I've never heard of that before, Nick. And
I do know that
another unconventional thing that Terry Fontenot and the general manager and the staff has done, but I think this is one that we can all say, all right, you're learning. Let's go D here.
Yeah, I know that more and more coaching staffs are leaving. Our teams are leaving their coaching staffs at home entirely during the combine. It was kind of started by the Rams, Sean McVay and Les Snead, where the coaching staffs across the board, it was just a time drain. They weren't getting that much out of the interviews, so they were staying in the facilities in their respective cities or whatever, and preparing for the draft through the film study and et cetera, get free agency stuff with the coaching staff. So it is interesting. You see one side of the ball out there. And as you mentioned, only 4 picks. Everybody knows where the Falcons need to go across the board. The one thing I will say is that, again, it's kind of weird if you're I understand all or nothing, but only sending the defense. There is undrafted free agents, right? Guys are released. You have a lot of times players will sign with teams after they're with a team for 2 years or so because of the relationship they have with a coach on another staff. So I think it's kind of weird to only send one at the same time, but it definitely reveals, to Joseph's point, did we get anything yesterday out of the press conferences? Not necessarily, but the information there, for sure. They're looking defense.
The relationships, though, the head coach is there. So as far as when you're doing the interviews and whatnot or talking, the head coach is there. But yes, the interviews and stuff, 45 defensive players. As Corey says, we have 5 picks, I'm pretty sure. The one is The 5th is supposed to be a 7th rounder coming from the part of the Taylor Heineke trade, but that hasn't been put on the board anywhere. I'm like, all right, this is where is this phantom pick? But that's the one it's supposed to be, is another 7th rounder. Is is from the Taylor Heineke trade, I believe, is what we're kind of waiting on. And I'm not sure why we're waiting on it. Why hasn't that one shown up on why hasn't that one become official anywhere? So want to get into some more of the questions here, and we'll get a lot more into this for sure. Plenty of good stuff coming today. Evan J says, good morning, y'all. I really hope as coach GM speak that we're keeping Kirk as a $40 million backup to get a trade. Or what's SMTH? Something out of it. But even that looks pathetic. Even more pathetic if they really plan on keeping him. I don't particularly listen to you've heard the phrase when you were kids a lot. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And coaches and general managers lie so much. It's a big game of poker that they call it coach speak. They don't call it lying, they call it coach speak. They call it GM speak. And I have not heard a single thing that makes me think that Kirk Cousins is going to be an Atlanta Falcon this summer. Including him saying, Terry Fontenot saying, yeah, we're still, the plan is to still have him as a backup. Yeah, I still don't believe that. What I hear and what I see is Kirk Cousins coming out and running his mouth on Radio Row saying, oh yeah, I was really injured, so don't be afraid to sign me when I come play for your team. And then Terry Fontenot coming out and saying, well, let's just hear what he had to say.
Kirk was on the injury report leading into the Denver game, and he wasn't on the injury report. Outside of that, we're only aware of that particular week. We talked about it when that change was made. It was a football decision. It was based off football decision. There wasn't anything injury related.
He wasn't hurt. He sucked. Ouch. I mean, those aren't people that are looking forward to working together again, Nick.
Or trying to salvage any trade value. Also, there's nothing. Oh yeah, we pleasure to work with. We're going a different direction, but man, you definitely want this guy. No, I mean, big picture concern with this is you are supposed to report injuries, correct, on the injury report, and I know that doesn't always happen. And things sometimes the Falcons get picks taken away for or fined for things that other teams do, as an example, I guess, but. That's my concern coming out of this. Obviously, you had the shoulder injury popped up in a walkthrough. We're unaware of that. It was leading up to the Week 11 game with Broncos. A clerical error, I think, was the direct quote from them. So
Kirk Cousins, yeah, I'm not worried about that, honestly, at all.
Not the hiding injuries on the injury report?
As far as guys, and this is the big conversation I had, I think, with Daryl yesterday on YouTube. When I posted this clip, we got into a very long conversation. And Daryl, you were arguing with me about something that I wasn't even arguing about. I was like, dude, this isn't the point. I don't care about that. It's like, okay. And I posted it yesterday. It's like, well, wouldn't that void his contract? No, it wouldn't. When contracts get voided is when guys are hiding injuries they got away from football-related activities. Remember Ron Gant riding the dirt bike in, what was that, 92? Or 93, breaks his leg in the offseason. Remember Jeff Kent, I think it was, the second baseman for the San Francisco Giants, said he slipped off his truck washing it when he was doing something like riding snowmobiles, or I think he was riding motorcycles too. That's when you void contracts, when you do something like that. Non-injury, non-football related injury stuff. Downplaying injuries or hiding injuries from your coaching staff, that's normal. I go back to most of y'all have probably seen Major League when they're putting the team together. Lou, the manager, goes up to Jake, the catcher, and says, "How are the knees, Jake?" He says, "Good, never better." He's like, you wouldn't be lying to me, would you? He goes, "No, man, would I BS you about something like that?" And he goes, "You'd better if you want to make this team." That's normal. So them hiding injuries, downplaying injuries, in order to keep them job, that's what competitors do. You had to put concussion protocols in place to keep players from going back in the game. No, I'm good. I can't see anything, but I'm good, coach. Put me in. That's what players do. So you're not going to void a contract on that. And I don't blame Kirk Cousins for trying to play through injury. I'm not saying the Falcons knew he was injured and were hiding it. I don't think that's the case either. I think they were allowing him to try and play through an injury while he was dinged up. and they waited too damn long and lost the season. It was poor man management. You've got a 24-year-old rookie as your number 8 overall pick, who is your quarterback in waiting. Kirk, I don't care if you're Greg Maddux. If you don't got it, you don't got it. You're going to sit down for a week and let's get right. You were on the injury report. You have sucked since then. Something doesn't seem right. Have a seat. We got this one for you.
I do find it interesting, though. I mean, again, the whole clerical error, and you have very opposite viewpoints from Kirk Cousins and the coaching staff. And the fact that if he was never on the injury report at all, that'd be one thing. But the fact that he was on there for 1 second, a walkthrough, and then pulled off, and also the stark dichotomy that was his numbers before that and after that. I think he was top 10 EPA per play, success rate, all these numbers. And then after that, he was like 25th through 32nd in success rate EPA. So there is like a clear line of demarcation around that unreported, reported shoulder injury. And the one aspect about this too that is weird, I'm not sure how hard they'll come down on this, but now that gambling is so intertwined in football, there's like this level of transparencies that's demanded from the league as far as injuries go on the injury report. And hiding it, I wonder if there can be some downstream. I'm not saying anything will happen for sure or whatever, but I do think that there's potentially more to the story here down the line than this press conference being the end of it.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it just sometimes the cover up is more the story. And right now, them saying two different things to me, I get, because Kirk is trying to rehabilitate his image. Okay, so I think they were probably on the same page at the time, where you see, Kirk, you're struggling, but listen, we think what's best. We think, and they were so stubborn about making Michael Penix sit out a year. Well, we don't want to change the plan. Everything's great as long as there's a plan. They don't want to change the plan. Meanwhile, 24-year-old rookie Bo Nix, happy birthday, Bo Nix. He turned 25 yesterday. 24-year-old rookie Jaden Daniels are lighting it up, and they're in the playoffs. But we don't want to deviate from the plan. They were too stubborn to put Michael Penix in. Afraid of Kirk Cousins, I don't know, but it was a mistake. Own it. It was a mistake. We went with Kirk Cousins because we thought he was the best guy to get the win, and it turned out that was probably the wrong thing to do. Okay, okay. That I get that. That's fine, but all of this other stuff is it's kind of nonsense. And I'll tell you, let me hit Corey Carter here real quick, and then I told Curtis I was going to play a clip based on what I thought of the press conference yesterday from one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite clips. But Corey comes in, he says, "Nick is an outsider with no skin in the game. What is your overall opinion in this front office on a scale of 1 to 10? Corey says mine is probably a 2. So when you say front office, you got to start at the top, dude, because Arthur Blank is part of this front office. They're not walk-away owners. They're closer to Jerry Jones than they are Greg Penner of the Broncos. And Arthur Blank, Terry Fontenot, and Raheem Morris now report directly to Arthur Blank. They took Rich McKay out of that. Rich McKay's out of this thing, y'all. Now it's Arthur Blank.
Yeah, for me, what is my ranking of the front office? I'll probably give them 3.5 out of 10. But the issue for me is the biggest thing they've done since I've been covering this team is take Michael Penix at 8 overall. If they hit on that and he ends up being a perennial top 5 to 10 quarterback, it can rocket up to 8 out of 10. I mean, I'll use not to this extreme, but the Chiefs for an example. The Chiefs draft outside of Patrick Mahomes was pretty dreadful that year, that 2017 class. I don't think they walked away with any starters. They took a first-round running back who busted. I mean, they've just not, outside of the Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis draft, they had multiple, I think 4 top 40 picks or something because they traded Tyreek Hill. They've not drafted very well. But guess what? 3-time AFC champion, going for the 3-peat this last year. They hit on the quarterback. So we don't have all the information yet. The flub of Kirk Cousins and the lack of good draft picks overall. Definitely, I think 2 to 4 out of 10 is fair because you also have the pro scouting side of things that is part of the equation. But if they hit on Michael Penix, not all can be forgiven, but a lot can be forgiven.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, when you go back, even the Arthur Blank regime. I mean, when he took over, it started the golden age of Atlanta Falcons football. It did. This team was in the playoffs more times than they weren't. We're talking about a franchise, Nick. I haven't said this in a while, so you may have forgotten it. We're talking about a franchise that until Arthur Blank took over, and we're talking 45 or 46 years, I believe it was the only team in professional sports, hockey, baseball, NFL, NBA, the only team in professional sports that had never had back-to-back winning seasons. Can you imagine going 50 years without back-to-back winning seasons? That was the Atlanta Falcons before Arthur Blank. It's been an improvement. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Is it better? Yes. Can he be better? Might be a little late for that, but I don't doubt that at least he cares. Smith didn't give a damn. They didn't give a damn. On this one, real quick, Larry says, "What's good, Scott? Good to see you, Larry." I see this one because I wanted to follow up another one. I wanted to play this clip again from Terry Fontenot about talking about Kirk Cousins. He was asked about the injury, and then he was asked something else about how did he?
Well, look,
how do you
Kirk
feel
handled
about
that. Kirk was on the
possibly being a backup? And for me, this was, again, not what you say, but how you say it type of thing.
Look, Kirk was on the injury report leading into the Denver game, and he wasn't on the injury report. Outside of that, we were only aware of that particular week. We talked about it when that change was made. It was a football decision. It was based off football decision. There wasn't anything injury related. Well, look, Kirk handled that really well at the end of the season, and obviously he's a really talented player. He's a great man, all those things. So, and again, he handled that role well.
I've never seen him so uncomfortable, Nick. All I could think of when I was watching him talk, one thing I thought of was, this sounds like a great one of my kids going up and doing public speaking for the first time. Being that uncomfortable. And two was, I'd actually feel bad for him. He was so uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable if I didn't know that this was a mess of their own making and that he's got a bank account with millions and millions of dollars to do this job. But all I could think of, really, when I was watching him try and stammer and stutter his way around this, was this clip from Get Shorty.
Look at me. You're trying to tell me that you f***ed up without sounding stupid. And that's hard to do.
You trying to tell me you effed up without sounding stupid? Because that's really hard to do. And again, I said it just a few minutes ago. No, we the water under the bridge is Kirk Cousins. Signing Kirk Cousins was a stupid move. Okay, that's under the bridge. But now what is everybody is talking about is Kirk Cousins' injury. The move was, why the F did you wait so long to make a move? Everybody knew. Was it 5 games of the worst he's ever played? 1 touchdown against 9 interceptions and a 5-game losing streak. That lost you the season. Own it. And it's Chili Palmer says, John Travolta says right there, let's talk about where you are now. You trying to tell me you screwed up without sounding stupid? That's really hard to do. And you saw how hard it was for Terry Fontenot yesterday. I've never, ever seen him so uncomfortable in front of a microphone.
Yeah, it's kind of jarring to listen to George Payton and then listen to Terry Fontenot. Like George, other than the hand stuff that he does, he's playing an accordion all the time when he's up there talking. But yeah, Fontenot, uncomfortable. I asked you when you texted me that yesterday, I was like, is it a dead man walking kind of thing? And that wasn't really your vibe. Right? On the outside, that'd be immediately like he's uncomfortable because he knows he's on thin ice here. But just, yeah, it's odd.
No, he's a guy that has been a punchline since the draft last year. And then it blew up in his face. And now there's even more people talking about, were you hiding things? He's uncomfortable, as he should be. What did I say? I just actually hearing that word in my head just kind of triggered something. I did a control F on the transcript on his end of season report, and I found the word comfortable in it 7 times. We're comfortable with this. We're comfortable with that. We're comfortable with this. And I said, by God, I came on here and I said, by God, it's time for some people to start feeling a little uncomfortable in Flowery Branch, because comfortable ain't cutting it. Oh my God. We got uncomfortable. We saw it yesterday in front of the microphone. And what a difference it was when they'd ask softball questions. Just toss them up. What are you looking for? What are some of the important things you want to see at the draft? And put a scout in his comfort zone. And then it was relaxed. It was confident. But you try and talk about Kirk Cousins. Oh my God. It was rough. It was rough yesterday. And like I said, I would have felt bad for him if I didn't already know that it was, own this, you screwed up.
Yeah.
And he's probably making $2 or $3 million a year.
Again, comes back to, like, I don't want to say the wrong thing to be held liable potentially. I don't know. I mean, walking that line, there's some weirdness with the injury reporting stuff, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a weird time. Other than that, I mean, Raheem Morris talking about quarterbacks, Fontenot, didn't glean too much other than, of course, as you mentioned, it's defense for sure. And also Raheem Morris against the tush push. That's what everybody's asking. What's your thought on the tush push? Thanks, Packers. What is your thought on the tush push? Actually, I know we got Rusty here, but I feel like we haven't talked about that.
My
before.
thought on the tush push is kind of like banning the shift. In baseball, I've been talking baseball all day. You can tell it's springtime. Adjust. There's only one team that pulls it off. I'm gonna outlaw the dunk because I can't stop Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Lou Alcindor at UCLA, so no dunking. There's only one team that does it and does it right. There was only one team that had Jerry Rice. There's only one team that had Barry Sanders. Stop it. Why can't you stop? Why can't everybody do it? Now, if it becomes something where all 32 teams are doing it, and it's impact, it's negatively impacting the game, but somehow Philly has figured out how to do this and nobody else can. Why am I punishing Philly for that?
My only thought on this is that if they do a retrospective analysis, let me pull out my science nerd talk here, and there tends to be a higher rate of injuries on that play, then maybe you can do that. I think that there's been enough, 3 or 4 years of this now, that they can do an analysis. And if there's a higher rate of injuries on that play specifically, then I think it's at least worth bringing to the table. But other than that, if there's not, then I'm with you 100%. Stop it. But if there's injuries, then it's a different discussion.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Anything that where there's injuries and stuff on that, I'm okay with for that. But as far as competitive imbalance, then no. It's a quarterback thing, but it used to be a rule. Remember, the Reggie Bush push with against Notre Dame and stuff. It was illegal to push a guy from behind. It was against the rules, and I'm okay with that one, honestly. I'm back and forth. It's not going to change how I feel about the game either way. It's not a huge deal to me. But right now I would vote against making it against the rules. Hey, what do you got to do? Well, I got to vote. I'm not going to abstain. I'm going to vote against. I'm going to vote for keeping it. That's where I would vote right now. And it's not an issue that I'm going to pick my battles. Nick, if you and I are going to argue about something, we can argue about Shamar Stewart. That one, if you and I are in the war room together, I'm drawing a line through Shamar Stewart's name at 15. No, pick somebody else. This is a fireable type of argument. I will leave. I will get a new job. That's how I feel about Shamar Stewart. Tush push, nah, you can have that one. I'm picking my battles.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Rusty coming in. Apologize for the voice if it sounds weird. I'm dealing with the sore throat here. So just joined. Not sure if you talked about this. I realize we need D, but rumor was we sent no offensive scouts to the combine. This team is its own worst enemy. Yeah, Rusty, we did talk about that. Was one of the first things Scott brought up. But at the same time, there are teams, we talked about this also. A lot of teams, more and more so, are not sending any coaches to the combine. I'll let you in on a little secret. The combine, what really matters there is the agents meeting with some of the front office stuff and the medical stuff. You don't need coaches there necessarily for that. And sometimes coaches are getting in more trouble than anything after hours. I mean, Indy, the combine is a big party scene a little bit. I mean, I'm curious if it's a little different this year with now it only being 2 weeks after the Super Bowl and everybody at Bourbon Street going a little bit nuts this year, it seemed like. So maybe there's not as much partying and the late night stuff. But yeah, I think it's interesting as far as, this team is obviously way putting their focus on the small amount of picks on defense, but I don't think it's a big negative thing. They could have sent nobody and I wouldn't have cared too much.
To Nick's point on this, Rusty, the bigger part of this is they interviewed 45 out of 45 players that they were allowed to interview were all defensive players, according to D-Led of the AJC, the granddaddy of Atlanta Journal of Atlanta Falcons beat writers. So again, some teams don't have any coaches. Falcons sent some coaches that happen to be all defense, but I guarantee you they were the only team there, and maybe the only team in history to only interview guys on one side of the ball. That might have happened. Curtis, you just missed it, dude. I said I was going to play the clip. And I played it just a couple of minutes ago. You just missed. I'll play it one more time. Just my impressions of watching Terry Fontenot and how uncomfortable he was up on the stand yesterday. Curtis, this is for you, brother.
Where you're at, okay? Harry, look at me. You're trying to tell me that you f***ed up without sounding stupid, and that's hard to do.
Are you trying to tell me you messed up without sounding stupid? Because that's really hard to do. Let's talk about where you're at. Enough of the bag. Where are you right now? And one of the questions that's been going around a lot, and actually I wanted to hit on Chris Walker on this because this brought me back somewhere else. Remember when we were talking about guys with the older players? I was like, I just looked through this, and I don't remember who it was. Chris, it was Pere Jerry. Pere Jerry was a 25-year-old rookie undersized defensive tackle that was drafted in the first round who had injury issues coming out. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. By God, let's take him. He was a bust. Now, is that Pere Jerry's fault that he was a bust? No. It's the Atlanta Falcons' fault that he was a bust.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't really fault if you take a guy too early or put them in a situation where they're not ready to play. Who was the edge rusher from Notre Dame a few years ago that was just absolutely...
it was Adegundeji.
Or like Steven Means also.
Yeah, they were awful. They're just dreadful players as far as starters in the NFL go. Not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's not their fault. I don't blame Jalen Mayfield for not being a good guard. The man had 11 starts or something in college at tackle. Not just like at tackle. I mean, he only started 11 games in college football, and they were at tackle. So Pere Jerry was that guy. When we were talking about drafting older guys, does that bother you? Sometimes it does. Quarterback, not as much, especially now. And things will change with NIL. These guys are making more money in college than they would as undrafted free agents who come through the ranks, as 23-year-old college grads or day 3 draft picks. It's like, shoot, I'm a big man on campus still. I get $500,000 playing for Nebraska as a defensive lineman, or for Wisconsin, let alone the SEC money, for goodness sakes. So it's going to change things. And frankly, once this balances out, I think we'll get a better product in both college and NFL because we'll get more experienced players doing that. Corey, going back to the discussion about Terry Fontenot and how uncomfortable he looked. He says, Corey, with the super chat, thank you, Corey. He says, I work in sales, and one thing I know is that you have to be honest. Fontenot's obviously not being honest, and it's causing us, all to lose faith. Yeah, but again, none of them are ever honest. They're never honest. Oh yeah, we're perfectly comfortable keeping, and maybe they do keep Kirk Cousins as a backup. How toxic is? I mean. And the only reason I say that, because no other team in the NFL would. Mm-mm. The Falcons might, because it's the worst thing to do for this team. It's like, well, what about you have to have a backup quarterback? You're not going to save any money. Kirk says, Kirk doesn't want to be there. That's bad. That's bad. They don't want Kirk there. They've already tossed him under the bus. He's already said F you. That's bad. It's not about the dollars and cents. It's neutral on money. Now let's do what's best for the team. What's best for the team is a divorce. So it's not quite neutral on money. $10 million in the grand scheme of things, when you're going to spend 5 on a backup anyway, that's fairly neutral on money. I get that. This ain't Madden, folks. These are people out there chirping and creating distractions and putting more pressure on you. Does Terry Fontenot look like he needs any more pressure put on him? The man's gone gray like crazy in 3 years.
Let's not talk about that. But other talking points. Yeah, Cousins is gone. You talk about the real world implications. I think with the whole, again, the talking points like, oh, no injury. We just, it was a football decision to bench him. So I don't think they're trying to salvage any trade value or anything like that. There'll be a release at some point. Also, the sooner you move on with the contract, the sooner you're out of the contract, right, as well. So you want to maximize your window with the rookie cost control contract with Michael Penix. You hold on to Kirk Cousins another year. I think you're probably further in the hole in 2026, 2027. So, it stinks. It's a bad move. It's definitely setting you back. It hampers your ability to build around Michael Penix and compete in the rookie contract window. But you just gotta move on.
Yeah, and Jeff Wolf, the question that nobody's asked, and I'll boil this down for you. He says, during practices, coaches, at what point did you know Cousins couldn't play anymore? And I'd put it real simple. What took you so long? Why? He was on the injury report and he didn't play worth a lick after that. Bye week, it was pretty bad. So why did it take you so long? Why were you so insistent on redshirting this draft class? We healthy scratched our defensive linemen. Brandon Dorlus got 19 snaps. Ruka Rohoro played 12% of the snaps on defense. This is a guy we spent a second and a third on. Who else who was a second round pick? It was Cooper DeJean. Why did you coach this team like you were scared to death? That's why I'm not there, y'all. I'd get a little nudge in the ribs. Mr. Kennedy, why don't you follow me, please? We're gonna go outside. Mark Schrader over there in Texas. Good to see you, Mark. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Cheers, my friend. I'll drink to that. I got my Lion coffee this morning. But Corey, something that we haven't really thought about. It's a misdirect. They're going after Tyler Warren. Corey comes in with a super chat. He says they're so smart. They're going to send all defensive coaches to the combine for a misdirect. Yeah, they're looking for a Kyle Pitts replacement. They don't want to, and they'll probably, what they're going to do is they're going to spend $50 million on signing Gronkowski next week, so that nobody will think that they're going to take Tyler Warren. So they're going to spend $50 million on Gronk as a misdirect to then trade up to take Tyler Warren, because Tyler Warren wouldn't have been there if you didn't have Gronk. That's the kind of logic I've heard from people the last year on the Penix Cousins thing.
I know
when the Falcons have tried, and I'll turn it back over. When the Falcons have tried to outsmart the system, highest drafted tight end of all time, $90 million guaranteed for a 36-year-old starter coming off an injury just to back him with a red-shirted draft class. It's blown up in their faces. And they have a long, distinguished history of doing stuff like that.
I will say, myself included, the NFL media at the time, it wasn't really pushback on the Kirk Cousins signing. It was more so pushback on the 8 overall Michael Penix after signing Cousins. But, if you want to talk about being thankful, where would this team be right now if they hadn't had taken Michael Penix, at least, especially in this draft class? Let's say they're picking, probably still picking about the same area, right? Maybe a couple picks higher, but you'd be in a world of trouble without much hope to glean on. And I know it's not fair to put it all on Michael Penix, but in hindsight, thank God they ended up making that decision, because otherwise it'd probably be Cousins again this season. We're all trying to talk ourselves into, well, it was the shoulder injury, and he's a further year away from the ACL, second year in the system, blah, blah, blah. No, we don't have to lie to ourselves about that. It's more about Penix and being happy that you have him in the house.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. And, like we said all along, rookie quarterback was the way to go in the draft last year. Mm-hmm. Before this time of year, before they went and got Cousins. Mm-hmm. But again, the second they signed Kirk Cousins, they treated it as if they had buyer's remorse. And I said that the second after the draft, once we saw how they drafted, it was buyer's remorse, and it's only gotten worse. it's only gotten worse on that one. Some of the good things though. Let me see here. Some of the talks. Michael, good to see you, Island Mike. He says, "Who you guys drafting at 15 for us?" Right now, I'm settled on Mike Green for the most part at edge. NFL's or the NCAA's leading sack leader. He had 17 last year, including one against Ohio State. So it wasn't just against lower competition. He's been good. Was good at the Senior Bowl. I'm interested to see how he tests this week, and it fits a need. Mel Kiper Jr. yesterday called him one of the hottest names in the draft. I'm more worried right now that he ain't going to be there.
Yeah, Mike Green is weird. It's coming out of the combine right now. We've kind of hinted at it here, but Joe Pearson, covering the Panthers for The Athletic, edge rusher Mike Green said an accusation of sexual assault led to his suspension and decision to leave Virginia for Marshall. Said he's had no problems talking to teams about it since he knows who he is and he knows the truth. Also, there was a separate incident with a different person in high school with an alleged sexual assault. So you've had two incidences in two different time points. I mean, I know that, different kid, different time, and people can grow, but red flags on that one, no doubt. Especially
I got to do that's where he'll get. What was the money? Who was 15 last year? Say Leatu Latu.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Leatu Latu.
Yep.
So Leatu Latu spot rack. I bet he was at least $15 million last year. So Leatu Latu signed a 4-year, $17 million guaranteed contract. So you're talking 17.5 with a little bit of an escalator. You're going to spend $18 million. I can drop $250,000 on background searches and private investigators, and they do. They do, to make sure that you get this right. And that's the kind of resources, believe it or not, we don't have. But Arthur Blank does. And I'm going to put $1 million into a search firm when I'm about to drop $20 million on a draft pick. So those type of things. We did our mock draft, and corners not completely out of the question if the edges aren't there. Again, for me, the only one I would really, really, really be against, and this should be freezing cold takes when he ends up Bruce Smith in the Hall of Fame or Reggie White with his size and athleticism, is Shamar Stewart. I do not want Shamar Stewart for this team. 4.5 sacks in 3 years. The boom or bust, which is what everybody is calling him, has always gone bust for this team. They can't afford risks like that. They need good football players. They need guys that can play.
Yeah,
and I can't play, but 4.5 sacks. He's high ceiling, low floor. No. I want less variance in there. I want lower, higher floor if it means a less ceiling.
And for me, for Shamar Stewart, if the football character comes back as a positive, I'd be willing to bet on the traits. But again, you're talking about where we sit. It's hearsay. We're not talking directly with the guy. We're not paying our own scouting private investigator firm to figure that stuff out. I mean, all the guys that we talk about, I think, as far as edge rushers at 15, they're going to be flaws. And that's kind of the case with this class in general, especially after the first 8 picks. But you're talking Michael Williams, if he's there, another guy, he's dealt with injuries and he's been kind of miscast. You see him at 4-eye as much as edge, and the edge stuff is great, but it's been against not great offensive lines, but the flashes are really out there. I mean, you watch his top 10 plays as a 7 technique against Florida State in the bowl game last year and Texas this year. It's like, oh my God, top 5 pick. But he's unbelievably built as well, but really inconsistent. Similar with Shamar Stewart as well. Just weird technique. I'm curious. It's kind of like I've compared him to Jadeveon Clowney, where he's so big and explosive forward that he can create havoc, which there's a lot of value. But he's not finishing a lot. So that's a concern with him. And then at the other side, you have your smaller guys who maybe have some run defense questions with character concerns at 15 overall. And James Pierce Jr., who's plummeting right now. A lot of people are concerned about his football character. I'm not sure if there's anything else going on there. Dane Brugler mentioned him by name as somebody with character concerns. And then Mike Green, which now there is, things that are confirmed about his background. So no matter where you're at 15, there's questions. I mean, gosh, we're talking about defensive line, safest thing, positive character. Somebody asked about him on Monday. Maybe the answer is Kenneth Grant. 340-pound freak athlete, 6'3", can play 5 technique all the way down to 0. Not an edge rusher, but I mean, it feels like he has way less questions than these edge rushers have that are going to be available at 15. And I'm curious your thoughts. I don't know how much work you've done on Jalen Walker from Georgia as well, who's a little bit tweener-ish. But, I mean, God, Scott, he is so explosive, closing speed. He doesn't really have pass rush moves right now, but he's still winning a lot. So he's one that intrigues the hell out of me. I don't know if he falls out of the top 10, but we'll see.
Yeah, they the moves and techniques are much easier to teach than the instincts, as far as being able to you can teach moves is what I'm trying to spit out. You trying to sound smart? Yeah, no. You can teach moves. Again, there's levels to it, obviously, but this isn't a skill game, like baseball or basketball. This is bigger, faster, stronger, and that's typically going to win. Well, why don't you want Shamar Stewart then, Scott? Because there's still levels to this. Because Terry says, who did Shamar Stewart date that he shouldn't have? You clearly know something. Yeah, point on the dolly where Shamar Stewart hurt you, Scott. No, I'll point on the quarterback that he didn't hurt, and that's it for me. It's just there's upside, there's production, and there's trying to find the perfect blend, and there isn't an answer for that. But he's so far skewed down on the non-productive thing that it takes him off the board for me. He had 1.5 sacks his first year, 1.5 sacks his second year, 1.5 sacks his third year. He's very consistent, but 4.5 sacks in 3 years? No. Well, he wasn't asked to do this and this and this. Why not? Why?
Yeah.
Because their defense sucked, and why? Because he couldn't. Yeah. And then I didn't see enough to change my mind at the Senior Bowl to go, oh yeah, he was just totally misused. He's an animal. He's a big, good-looking, athletic kid that has a lot of risk. I do not want that for this team. I want somebody that is going to be more sure thing. Like I said, he'll go back end to a good team, and he won't have to play right away. And come year 3 and 4, he'll probably be a star. Falcons, I'm tired of waiting. I need somebody that can come in and play right now.
I think in this class, considering how few sure things there are in the top, I don't know if he's going to fall to the back half. We'll see how he tests, right? But I think that, if Travon Walker, right, can elevate himself to 1 overall in a very poor class that season, I think Shamar Stewart's got a chance to elevate his stock as well this one. But we'll see, right? It only takes one team. Again, we talked about the 4 edge rushers that are in play at 15 overall, and each of them has question marks right now. So it's going to be fascinating to follow. And then the other defensive line guy, defensive front that's in play potentially at 15 is Walter Nolan. And he was another one that was named by Dane Brugler as far as having character concerns. So it's a weird spot for the Falcons and that 15th overall pick and their needs. You're talking about also,
Nick, though. Just sorry to interrupt, but before I forget and want to get back to this, we talk about 2022 wasn't a great class. It was, though. There just wasn't a surefire number 1 guy, coming in. You start looking at this, start going down the names of this class, and you're like Aiden Hutchinson, yes. Derek Stingley, yes. Sauce Gardner, yes. Kayvon Thibodeau ends up being a really good player. Evan Neal's a bust. Drake London, yes. Charles Cross has been good. Garrett Wilson, yes. Chris Olave, yes. Jamison Williams is getting there. Jordan Davis, yes. Kyle Hamilton, yes. That's 14 picks, man. This was a good class.
I'll push back on
have the number 1 pick.
I'd push back on a few that you said there. Like Thibodeau has been massively underwhelming with the Giants. And Chris Olave, not
sacks
totally
in 3 years.
Yeah, they've been looking to ship him. He's been somebody that's been out there. They're not happy with him.
Yeah, but going down, just going down the list, of those guys, it was a good wide receiver class, obviously. Mm-hmm. Christian Watson, and this was a class we really wanted more picks on day 2.
Yeah,
Christian Watson was there. I think that was Alec Pierce's class. So lots. I thought it was a decent class. And Terry says he does remind me of the Jamal Anderson kid we took from Arkansas. I think that was 2008. And just because I've recently been looking that up, I don't remember all this stuff that well anymore. But Jamal was in my top 5 for biggest draft busts of all time for the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that list is still pretty safe right now. I don't think Kyle Pitts is going to crack into that list, even if he has a poor season. He's going to be a serviceable pro at worst, where the guys that I put in that top 5 list, Bruce Pickens was number 1. He, a combine guy, a straight line guy. The Falcons had this thing about drafting Big 8 defensive backs back then when the Big 8 was running the wishbone. And he was number 1. I think Jamal was like 3 on that list of biggest draft busts. So that was bad. That was a rough pick.
Yeah. Hopefully they get something. Scott, we just keep talking about this 15 overall, these guys that have questions. Trade back. Just trade back. It's you don't like Shamar Stewart at 15, that's fine, but you compliment him with another 3rd round pick and he falls to pick 25. I mean, you really change your probabilities, with those additional top 100 picks there. It becomes a little bit more palatable to take those risks. So again,
if I could trade Mike Green, I didn't get my edge, but let's say I get 2 second rounders out of it, or a second and a third, and then I come out of the draft with it's first, second, fourth is what the Falcons have right now. So if I come out of it with second, third, fourth is what you would end up getting. And if I can go linebacker, safety, edge, second, third, 1, 2, 3, going, all 3 levels of the defense with 3 picks on day 2, I'll be pretty happy. I'll be really happy.
I mean, you'd get even more picks than that, Scott. Moving back from 15 overall down to the 2nd round, you'd be getting a future, because Denver traded 10 to 20 back in 2019, and they got a 2, a 3, and a future 2 to do that. So that's you can move back. If you're moving it from 15 to like 40, you're going to get a 2 and a 3 and a 2 next season, and maybe even a future 4. So again, we're very much math people, and why do you want to trade back? It's because your probability of hitting, right? And I think a lot of guys from pick 15 to pick 60, it's going to be a lot of jumbled names and mixed up people. There's not a consensus this season, so it will be interesting. Probably don't have time for a simulator today, Scott. I don't know.
No, we'll do Monday. We'll do Monday after the combine. So we'll do mock draft Monday after the combine. A couple things I want to get into real quick, because it's been a topic of conversation that I've kind of glossed over before we get out of here. Kyle Pitts, they're saying all the right things at the combine. It's our job to get the best out of Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is an Atlanta Falcon in 2025. They've already dumped $33 million into him in a number 4 pick in a historic draft full of future Hall of Famers. What's one more year? Okay. The best you're going to get back for him is a day 3 pick and $5 million in cash. He's worth that risk. If he has a huge year, you franchise tag him. It'd be $15 million on a franchise tag on a 1-year guaranteed contract as a tight end. So you've got those options there. And then if you don't want him and he's pissed about that, then you trade him once his value is up. His value is in the tank right now. So you hold on to Kyle Pitts. Tyler Algier is someone we have talked about. You hold on to Tyler Algier just because his trade value is going to be the worst when you want to trade him the most before the draft. You want more picks. Well, if I need a running back, I'm just going to draft one. It's a huge pick. It's a huge class for running backs. I'm not going to send Atlanta a 4th round pick for 1 year of Tyler Algier. I'm going to draft my own running back in the 4th round and get 4 years out of him. Where his value could go up though, Nick? How about a contender in October at the trade deadline if the Falcons are just sputtering around 500 and then he's got some value to a contender, wouldn't you think?
I think the first day after the draft is when you're picking up the phone, because there's going to be teams like, oh, we really want a running back. Well, guess what? Not every running back fits Tyler Algier's profile this cycle. So does that help you very much this year? No. But the way the draft works, sometimes, we want to come out with a running back. We end up taking Rashard Smith from SMU in the 5th round. Well, guess what? He's a glorified wide receiver type. We still need a Thunder guy. We'll give you a 4th round pick in 2026 that would have just been a 6th or 7th round pick in 2025. So I'm with you. You probably, if he's not traded in and the Falcons fall flat, yes, he's going to be part of the trade deadline conversation. But I do think that like the day following the conclusion of the draft, or even during day 3 of the draft, like there's going to be a point where it's like we can't get Martinez or your guy, Jarquez Hunter, because he's already been taken off the board. What would it take to get Tyler Algier? We're not giving you, maybe we'll give you a 7th rounder this year and then a 5th rounder next year to do that once that.
Yeah. And I say, no, that doesn't help me right now. Tyler Algier, I need Tyler Algier in 2025 more than I need a draft pick in 2026.
Yep.
Right now, October, that could change. Then things change. And his value is not going to go down because his value as a trade piece before the draft sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's much more valuable to you as an Atlanta Falcon right now. And it could actually increase. You could actually get more for him for 5 games than you could for 17. So you need Tyler Algier. He's not going anywhere. And frankly, as we said on Monday, you could re-sign him. I mean, you could re-sign him. It's peanuts compared to other positions. I think I looked up the 10th highest paid wide receiver is getting 3x what the 10th highest paid running back is. And if Tyler gets top 10 money, he should probably go on that one. Robbie wanted to hit this real quick. I love this because I agree with you. People ask me all the time after the first year, what were your thoughts on Terry Fontenot? Robbie says, I would love to see failed draft trades during the draft. I only ever hear we tried weeks, months later. If you ever hear it all is the thing. And that's what I said with that number 4 pick with Kyle Pitts. No, I didn't like the pick. But if it works out, it works out. You get a good player, you get a great player, fine. It ended up looking like a pretty good you were getting a pretty good player after the first year. But I wanted to know what were you offered to move down in that draft? Because damn, I probably would have taken the Bears-Giants trade. The Bears gave up a lot to go up into the Giants spot, and that was like at 11 or 12 or 13 to get Justin Fields. What did they turn down? God, I would love to know what they were offered for that number 4 pick, because the Falcons in 2021 needed to move down. If they could have spun that into 4 picks, they absolutely should have. And naturally, being the Atlanta Falcons, the dream trade went to number 3. 3 first-round picks to the Miami Dolphins from the San Francisco Giants to the Miami Dolphins. Yes, I would have made that pick. I would have snatched your arm off to make that pick, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, really, the dream pick was probably, in hindsight, looking back at everything, it was the Eagles Saints trade a couple years ago, where the Eagles traded down 2 slots. Maybe was it? I don't know if the Saints went up for, was it Penning or Olave or something, but what they got back were a future first and a future second. And those 2 picks, guess who they ended up being, folks?
Jalen Carter?
Cooper DeJean. Wow.
I love having more picks. They're not all going to be like that.
No.
But again, I think Fontenot's only traded down once that I can remember. And the throw-in, the lower pick ended up being the best of the bunch. It was swapping seconds with the Broncos. They took Javonte Williams. The Falcons took Richie Grant. And the 4th rounder that the Broncos kicked in ended up being Drew Dahlman, who is going to have a market. Javonte Williams and Richie Grant, not nearly as much. On that note, we are going to get out of here. You got any final last words? You look like your eyebrows, or you're getting that little line between. You're like, I got something more to say.
Just excited for. I see all the interviews are coming through for the defensive line prospects right now, which is very interesting. Jalen Walker was just up on the podium. Michael Williams, I guess, had a engaging personality interview up there as well. So I'm just excited to see the big guys run and test and jump. Right, that's the best part of the entire process. So, and it's a pretty good defensive line edge class. So should be a lot of fun. I'm really curious about the day 2 guys. Right, it's a deep class. How do those guys test? How do they shake out? Because there's a bevy of options day 2. Again, another reason that, 15, you have a better chance of hitting at 15, but I think you have even a better chance of trading down 15 and having 2 picks at the same position.
I'd rather have 2 shots I'd rather have 35 and 36 than 15, probably.
Yeah.
Especially for this team, this team, where again, a day 2 pick is a premium pick for a non-premium position. Safety, linebacker, interior offensive line, running back, and tight end. Those are the bottom half of positions in position value. You need a safety. You need a linebacker. You need, those 2 for sure. And then you need edge. Edge is premium. That's the hard part. But can you still get an edge can you get numbers on there? Can I draft one in the second, maybe another one in the seventh and get lucky? Maybe.
Yep. And historically too, these are premium positions, but there are premium positions that you can't find first round or can't really find beyond first round. And there are premium positions you can find day 2. And those are and interior defensive line.
Yeah.
Sometimes edge rusher, offensive tackle. We really very specific on the metrics and the athletic testing and everything of we know what we want. The NFL is good at picking the haves from the have-nots there, but not always defensive tackle and wide receiver as well. So those are premium positions that you still can go
tackle's premium, but it's the last of the premium positions nowadays.
I might toss cornerback in there instead.
But look at the draft, though. I mean, look at the corners taken in the first round versus defensive tackles in the first round over the last 5 years. You're going to find a lot more corners.
Yeah. But the defensive tackles are paid way more when they're the difference makers. Like Surtain doesn't even
Once you finally find one, they get it in free agency. The hit rate on them, the people are afraid to take them high.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of
I'm talking draft, not money. Money once you get them, but in draft, you almost have to earn it more as a defensive tackle, and then you get paid. Teams are more willing to take, except the Falcons. Terry Fontenot went on. This is another one of my takeaways. Terry Fontenot went on for 3 minutes about corners. He's taken 2 corners in his 4 years, both day 3. So, it's a premium position that needs to be hit. So that's a premium position, but they need to come out of this draft, and then we're going to go, they need to come out of this draft with a linebacker, a safety, and an edge. And then we'll see if with their 5 picks. So that can be done with a first, second, and a fourth. It can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Now, getting corner, edge, safety, linebacker might be tough. You might be able to go edge, corner, edge, first and second, and then you got to kind of get lucky or figure something out in order to get a linebacker, safety as a day 3 when you don't pick again. But I think they'll come out of this with one of each of those 4 positions.
Yeah, and cornerback's weird this year. A lot of tackling issues from what I'd gathered. And the guy that I really like at cornerback, Scott, that, we did those simulators a few times, and I'm like, we should have waited on corner because this guy's here. He's getting perennially mocked now, pick 30 in Florida State. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious talent is obvious. I don't want to dislocate my shoulder, pat myself on the back, right? Like other people see it too. Obvious talent's obvious. A lot of good people that are this, but Azrae Thomas at Florida State, only 20 years old, great mover, great length, good size, actual press man corner, tackles well, despite playing on a dysfunctional Florida State defense this last year. I mean, he was obvious out there. So, and he actually tackles. The 2 teams that ended up in the Super Bowl this year, Scott, the best 2 tackling defenses in football. No shock.
People can say what they want about AJ Terrell, but don't knock his physicality. The man will throw his body in there, sometimes to his own detriment. He scares me a little bit. I'm like, he's going to concuss himself. Be careful.
Yeah.
I love watching AJ Terrell play football. I really, really do. Even if it's not always, yes, he's a corner. He's going to get burnt. It happens. He's not perfect. But I love his mentality, and I love the way he plays the game. We love y'all. Thank you for being here today. We had a fun show. Corey, thanks for coming in a few times for us today. You had the hat trick with 3 super chats. Rusty, thank you, sir. Mark Schrader, good to see you again. Thank you for the support. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Really helps us out a lot. If you're on Facebook, hit that share button. That helps us out a lot too. It is a gorgeous week in the Southeast. Get outside and enjoy it. Then we can read about the combine later. So we will be back on Monday with some takeaways and stuff from the week. Hope y'all had a fun time with us. We had a fun time with y'all. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And thanks for being here.
Peace.